All right, so we're going to talk about, just so you guys, my hope is that going through this next part will allow you to really see the mutually beneficial synergy that we created, right? Each of us, none of us, there were four partners, and none of us had all of the necessary resources, whether it's time, money, knowledge, desire, to do this deal by themselves. And yet, all of us found a way to offer what we were willing and able to the deal in exchange for a fair share of the profits. And you'll see here momentarily that all of us ended up being pretty darn happy. Um, so the property sold for 435. There was, out of those proceeds, the first thing we do is give Chris back his money. It was the 98,000. So he got that back. And then we pay back our investor. And then there were very few closing costs, about $1,000, which was nice. Georgia, for whatever reason, we bought this facility with very little uh, fees and closing costs, and we also sold it for very little. Um, so of the proceeds, Chris's 98 grand turned into just about 180. His 40% stake was worth 80 grand on top of his original contribution, right? So do the math. I don't know what that is. 50 plus percent ROI for him annualized for on a 19-month investment. Um, then our LLC that Ken and I had made 120 grand because we owned 60%. But remember, we had to pay back our investor. And that wasn't something that could come out of Chris's side of things because he put in money and Ken and I didn't. So that was only fair. So we paid our investor off. And when that was said and done, we had 94 grand left over. We ended up splitting that two ways. And the only additional profits that were generated by this deal were during the course of ownership, there was roughly $33,000 in cash flow. Some of that was just distributed today at the sale because it was leftover money in the bank. But our LLC got 20%. Again, Ken and I split that 50-50. So we got 10 grand each, and Chris got 13 grand. If you do the math, as I had mentioned, Chris made 50% ROI. And at the time, and if you're listening, Chris, you know I mean no offense because I've said this to your face. At the time, you had no idea what you were doing, right? So you didn't bring expertise to the deal other than, I have to back up, say, the one thing you know better than anybody I know how to do is find the deals. And so that's what you did, and that's what he got paid for. All Chris learned how to do was find and analyze the deals. He didn't know how to manage them yet, right? So 50% ROI is not bad for just finding a deal. I'm not pretending finding is the easiest part of the equation, but that's a big payday. Ken made 60 grand ballpark for his efforts. He could maybe at some time, I don't think he's on the call tonight, but he could chime in and share with us the man hours. I'd be interested to know. I'm going to guess he made 4 or 5 trips down there total for 2 days on average a piece. So I'm going to say he has 8 to 10 days of labor into it. And then also whatever he did from home remotely. But I'd love to know exactly what that ended up being. I also got paid the equal amount that Ken did. And that was for guiding both him and Chris through the process, helping them and connecting them to the money. And a lot of that is, you might be like, well, Mike, that's a lot of money. You got paid really well just for connecting them to the money, which is true. The part that I don't want you to lose sight of is there's an element of trust that I lent to the deal because Kyle still doesn't know Ken and he still doesn't know Chris. And so the chances that he's going to just lend 138 grand on a Word doc business plan from a cold presentation is basically slim to none. It's not going to happen. So it was that relationship, which you guys know how much I harp on the importance of relationships, the importance of always demonstrating integrity, because you don't know when you're going to be able to capitalize on the trust that integrity builds for you into a situation like this, right? I didn't work very hard for this 60 grand, but I've lived a way for a long time that allowed me to have the relationships that got this deal to the finish line. Does that make sense?